Yeah, well, we'll get to that in just a moment. A couple things I want to share with you just because of the urgency nature of these announcements. The first is this. Our deadline is tomorrow for any of you who want to go with us on the Romania trip. But I know you're all into spontaneity, so you can sign up today or tomorrow is the deadline. Will and I will be at the Connection Center afterwards. Here's the deal. We partner with Impact Church and Pastor Adi, who's the pastor there, and started that church about the same time that Epic got started. And it's in a beautiful city, Oradea, Romania, and it's in a country that's only been removed from communism less than 30 years now. And yet still, when I was there, I was able to see the effects, and still a lot of people living under that kind of suppressive regime, even though it's been lifted in terms of, at least officially. But at Impact Church, we get to go serve alongside of them. We get to work in gypsy communities. One of the coolest things this church is doing is going into their public hospital that's dilapidated and actually refurbishing hospital rooms so that people who are sick or even dying can do so in a new and clean room. They replace the floor, paint, and our church gets to be a part of that as well. And then we get to come in and encourage those leaders who are giving it their all, just like you are at this church that are serving. They're giving it their all, and yet there's a lot of opposition there. And so I'd love for us to be able to send a great team. It's May, I think, 15th through 22nd. Will Maraza is leading that team, which is reason enough to go. I've traveled with Will a lot, never out of the country, so I bet you're in for a treat. But see Will or I at the Connection Center. Even if your situation is, I would love to go, I'm about $500 short, or whatever the case may be, let us figure out a way to help you. We have a group of people in our church who come to us, they're like, hey, my calendar's full, but I've got some money. And you might be like, hey, my calendar is open, but I need some money. So we just kind of pair this together. If you look at the church getting started in Acts, like, hey, so-and-so had means, these people had needs, they came together. And so let us know, literally before you leave today, or send Will an email tonight so that we can try to make this team, we can fill this team and be able to go and serve alongside our great church partner in Oradea. Second thing I want you to know is, if you don't know, where have you been? But next week is the Sunday that we have been building towards for the last several months. Next Sunday on the 21st, we will celebrate 5 years as a church. And no applause, that's amazing. 9:30 thought that was a big deal. Have you guys ever started anything? You guys ever move a couple thousand miles away, 13 people, try to get a business off the ground or something? It's sort of a big deal, we think. And we're going to celebrate next week. We think when we consider even a little what God has done over the last 5 years, we think we've got to push pause on one Sunday gathering and just be able to be present together. So a few things I want to say about that. One, come early. The lobby will actually be filled with things that you need to interact with, observe, art pieces. I'm not going to tell everything because it's a lot of surprise action there. But come early next week. I know you're like, Ben, like 11:20 is my time. Come early next week, earlier even than 11:20, earlier than 11, because there will be a number of things that you will want to participate in the lobby, and you can't do that if you're late. Secondly, get your butt in one of these seats by the time the gathering starts, okay? There are elements of the service. Hopefully you would always feel this way, but there are elements of the service that if you leave early or you come in even a couple minutes late, you're going to miss some really significant things. So we were just trying to fill that time with everything we thought that could go towards honoring God and thanking Him for what He's done, as well as looking forward to what's ahead. So be present. Next week is the big week. And the last thing I want you to do, if you're part of this church, is make me a promise that you will invite at least 3 people to come with you and pay at least one of those to say yes, okay? So whatever you need to do, you tell them pastor's awesome, he's hilarious, funny, handsome. I mean, whatever you need to do to get them here, and you'll leave with some treats as well as your guests who come with you next week. It will be a historic day that you do not want to miss. Today we are kicking off the Breathing Room series, and it's funny when months ago when I thought this would be a great time to start a series like this, I was feeling pretty good about the breathing room in my life. I was actually like, wow, I've figured this out. I'm going to tell the rest of you jokers how to get some breathing room. And of course, the week that we kick off the Breathing Room series, I feel like I have no breathing room. Anybody else? Breathing room issues at all? This is a participation thing today, by the way. I don't know what happened at your last church, but we like to get into it together. I don't ask a ton of rhetorical questions. If I don't want you to interact, I'll tell you that on the front end, okay? We're defining breathing room this way. Breathing room is the space that exists between our load and our limits. Breathing room is the space that exists between our load and our limits. And you're like, Ben, I don't have any of that. That's why we're doing this series. We're going to try to create some of that. Breathing room is a space that exists between our load and our limits, or you may think of it as margin would be another term that we could use for breathing room. And we would love more breathing room. We would love more breathing room in our bank accounts and on our calendars. And while breathing room sounds like this amazing fantasy, we all probably believe the reality is much different, that perhaps the concept of breathing room is even impossible for our 21st century lives. And what I want to do today is show you not only is it possible, but what if God has woven this idea of breathing room into the very fabric of the universe? And what if, no matter what century you're living in, God has created you in such a way that you cannot thrive to your full potential without breathing room? There are 4 books that have helped me prepare for this series. I'll show you a picture of all 4 of these books. One is Your Life in Rhythm by Bruce Miller. Another is Margin by Richard Swenson. Soul Keeping by John Ortberg, and The Rest of God by Mark Buchanan. I would encourage you to get any of them. I highly recommend all 4 of them. If you're like Ben, I've got room in 2016 for one book. I would probably go with The Rest of God. It is the one that I've returned to more than the others. I probably read it for the first time 10 plus years ago, and I continue to go back to it because it's so helpful in terms of this concept of breathing room and how we can begin to operate out of it in our lives. So let me encourage those to you. Now, for all of us, we may, again, think that breathing room is a novel idea, but it just seems impossible with the lives that we're living. And what I want to do in this first message as we kick off this series is let you know the reason you don't have any breathing room and the reason I don't have any breathing room is because we have way too many things under this heading in our lives. I can't miss that. Say it with me, class. I can't miss that. You just have way too many that's. You're like, but Ben, you don't understand my position. Ben, you don't understand how popular I am. Ben, you don't know how many happy hours I get invited to. Ben, you don't know how many hobbies I have. Ben, you don't know how talented I am, so I'm the only one that can solve the problem. Ben, you don't know how often my parents need me to come home and see them and talk to them. Ben, you don't know. I have too many that's because I'm all that. So that's what I want to operate under today. What is on your I can't miss that list? Every human has that list and have had that list from the very beginning of time. And so I really do want you to participate, whether on your phone, I guess I can trust you with your phone. Just take some notes today. I really want you to be thinking about what is on my I can't miss that list. Man, I realize you're tempted like I am to have all the reasons why you can't miss that. What if you let so-and-so down? What if you don't get it in on time? What if you miss a hobby? What if there's a party and you miss it? I understand all of the things that pressurize us and go, hey, you can't miss that, but we've got way too many things on the list of I can't miss that. And what I want to do is show you a story, an encounter Jesus has with a couple of women, and they both, just like all of us, each had a list that was with the tagline, I can't miss that. But their lists look completely different from one another. And the one who had way too many things on her, I can't miss that list, she actually missed it. Like, Ben, what do you mean? Here's what I mean. There can be so many things on our I can't miss that list that we actually miss the one thing or the few things that God intends for us never to miss. Make sense? I want you to see this story in Luke chapter 10. If you have a copy of the scriptures on the phone or hard copy, if you need a Bible to follow along, just raise your hands and our team will get one into your hands. Just keep your hands up. We believe that God has revealed himself to us through the pages of the scriptures. We want to engage the scriptures. We want to see what is true about the way God's created the world, what is true about how he's created us, and how should we live in light of that. And I want to understand and just admit with all of you today that it can be very true that we think, you know what, God, this breathing room concept may have been great in the way you created the world back in that day, but we're in a little different time now. And by the way, God, those 24 hours were probably sufficient for those people who aren't as technologically advanced as we are, but we need about how many hours? How many hours do we need in a day? I mean, let's just be honest, right? Church isn't a place where this church at least, we're not giving church answers. How many hours would you prefer in a day? Come on, 30? All right, because you would be so amazing with your time if you had 30, I know. Is that so you could sleep 6 more hours or so you could be more productive or follow up with a few emails or, really, we would be so awesome if we had 30 hours. Go ahead and stand with me. I want you to see this encounter. I want you to see what's on there. I can't miss that list. And I really want you, like that's the kind of refrain I'm going to continue just to echo this morning. What is on your I can't miss that list? And what happens if you have too many of the wrong things on that list? What happens if you miss the thing you should never miss? Jesus is on his way to the village. We see in chapter 10, verse 38 through 42. Now as they went, Jesus and his disciples on their way, Jesus entered a village. And a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house, and she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him, so she goes up to Jesus and said, Lord, do you not care that my lazy sister, that's fair, right? We can read that into the text. Do you not care that my unproductive sister, do you not care that my lazy sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me, verse 41. But the Lord, that's Jesus, answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. You may be seated. So you have these two women. They are sisters. And again, it's good to be honest in church. Just your first thought, your first reaction. What do you think? And it seems to me like Mary's the one missing the point. Anybody else? It seems to me like Mary's the one on the team who's not bringing any productive work to our group think, right? It seems that Mary's the one, all of us are bringing snacks, and Mary's like, I'm not, right? It seems like everyone's pitching in, but not Mary. Mary seems to be the one who's distracted and totally missing the point. And Luke says, however, not that Mary was distracted, but that Martha is the one who was distracted. That's just Luke's writing, not Jesus' thought just yet. Luke says that Martha is the one who was distracted. But we know that Martha doesn't agree with Luke. But how do you know that? Because she goes up to Jesus and says, Lord, do you not care? It's like, Jesus, this isn't about what's right and wrong. I've already established what's right and who's wrong. It isn't about like, oh, let's debate who's the better sister here. We've established that. Jesus, do you not care that I am slaving away in here and she's doing nothing but sitting down listening to you talk? Now, was Martha distracted by something sinful? Participate. No trick questions yet, okay? I'll warn you. It'll be like extra credit. No. Was Martha self-absorbed? No. Was Martha doing something that God forbids? No. So the message, this idea of breathing room, the idea of what's on our I can't miss that list, of course we shouldn't have sinful things on that list, but that's not the issue for most of us, and it's not the issue for Martha. Jesus says to Martha, 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 you are anxious and troubled about many things. Do you know what he's saying? He's saying, Martha, I know that you have an I can't miss that list. We all do. Martha, believe it or not, Jesus would say to her, I have that list too. Mary has that list too. But Martha, here's the problem. You've got way too many things on your I can't miss that list. And because you have way too many things on your I can't miss that list, you're actually missing what you shouldn't be missing. And I have to think for me, and perhaps for many, if not most, or even all of us, that the size of our I can't miss that list is causing us to miss what Jesus wants to do in and for us. And he's like, Mary's not missing it. But Martha's understanding about Mary is that she was totally missing it, right? Like, do you not care? Like, we know this is wrong, but aren't you going to speak up? But what we know is that Mary was sitting, looking like she's lazy, looking like she's unproductive, doing nothing. She's sitting at the feet of Jesus, which means Jesus is saying something. And Martha's not hearing any of it. It seems to me in that moment, without being there, I wasn't there. I turned 40 next year, but I'm not this old. It seems to me in that moment that Martha would have had to interrupt Jesus' teaching, pouring into Mary, to tell Jesus, why would you allow this? Tell her to get up and help me. And Jesus doesn't. He doesn't tell Mary to get back in the kitchen with your sister Martha because those are the things you can't miss out on. I'm a big deal. You're hosting me. Get in there. I like chicken wings, spicy, but not atomic or anything. Like, he doesn't do any of that. He says, Martha, Martha, you're missing it. Mary's not missing it. You are missing it. Mark Buchanan, the author of the Rest of God book, he was asked what his biggest regret in life was. It's not on the screen because it's a bit lengthy, but I want you to hear it. Here's what Buchanan says about his biggest regret in his entire life. He says, being in a hurry. Listen to this. Getting to the next thing without fully entering the thing in front of me. Familiar? He says, I cannot think of a single advantage I've ever gained from being in a hurry, but 1,000 broken and missed things, tens of thousands, lie in the wake of all that rushing. He says, anybody besides me struggle with this, please? Like, I'm talking to you, but I'm thinking about that. Right? I'm at this appointment. I'm thinking about which train do I catch to get to the next one. I'm on this email, but I'm really concerned with something. Like, this is just me. And Buchanan says, I can't think of one single advantage all of my hurrying has gotten me, but I can think of tens of thousands of things that I've missed. And Martha's missing it. And many of us are missing it. We're getting lots of things, but we could be missing what's most crucial. Richard Foster, in his book, The Celebration of Discipline, he says this about our current society. He says, in contemporary society, our adversary majors in three things: noise, hurry, and crowds. Noise, hurry, and crowds. And yet, many of us in this room, we wear our busyness like it's a badge of honor, right? Like it adds so much to our lives and to our friends' lives and to our organizations and to our church. And the thing is, we act like it adds to us. The reality is, constant busyness and always producing something, all it does is take things away from us. We're allowing busyness to deplete us and deplete us in ways that deplete us in the areas that God actually wants to increase in our lives. And what we say is, but I just have to. I'm in management. I'm in a startup. I've got 4 kids. I met with a 22-year-old guy in our church yesterday, and he told me that he lived alone and how busy his life was because he had to cook and do all that for himself. I was like, bro, I got 4 kids if you want to try that on for size. Like if you want to, But it's funny, to Shauna and I, we look back when we were newlyweds, and we felt like we were so busy at the time. Anybody else? Like we didn't think we had any breathing room now. And now we're like, we were fools. Anyway, we're going to do better when we go empty nest again. We're just getting some plans. Like we are going to capitalize on all of that breathing room. But we feel like we can't because of the modern era in which we live, because of technology. We'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. We feel like it's impossible. And the problem, I really think, is this. We've made everything to fit on our I can't miss that list. Buchanan says this about busyness. He says busyness, and don't read by this too quick, busyness makes us stop caring about the things we care about. Isn't that interesting? I think we've all had that moment where we wake up and realize, man, I used to be so passionate about fill in the blank. I used to be so connected to a person, fill in the blank. We stop actually caring about the things that we care about. Busyness also robs us of knowing God the way we might, because so many of us treat God like the next email or the next text or the next project, and you can't get to know God on the run. You just can't. It doesn't matter what century we're living in. It doesn't matter what our role is. It doesn't matter that we try to start a church from the ground up. It doesn't matter that we're executives. It doesn't matter that we're entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter that our parents and our siblings and our spouse and our children are counting on us so much. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if God has woven this into the fabric of our very DNA, then we are going to have to adhere to it or we're going to miss out on it. It's true for every single one of us. And when you see Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus, what is being presented to us is the posture of a disciple. Now, she looks lazy. Can we just be honest? She's I don't know about you, but you got friends or people, whenever you're moving one of your buddies or one of your friends or another family, you know the person who's going to be the supervisor? Anybody? Yeah, I'm never the supervisor. But she looks like she's the person that's unproductive. And yet Jesus says she does what's most necessary. Now, understand this before you get the wrong message and go out of here and move into a monastery, okay? It is not the case that Mary never worked or served or was productive again in her life. Can we keep that in mind? This is not anti-productivity. I think God is pro-productivity. But he's for more than just productivity. And here's what I love about Mary. This is where some of us miss it. Mary doesn't care at all what others think about how she's spending her time. Can I say that again? Mary doesn't care at all what her sister thinks about how she's spending her time, what anyone else in the house thinks about how she's spending her time. She has found something that is on her I can't miss this list, and she's not giving into peer pressure, and she's not giving into temptation. She is determined, if Jesus is speaking, I'm sitting. If Jesus is talking, I'm listening. Martha, the dishes can wait. Anyone live with someone, you're a dishes can wait person, but their dishes have to be made right now, like taken care of? You always win, right? If that's you. Like if you're the dishes can wait and you live with someone that they've got to be taken care of right now, you always win. But Mary just decided, this is what's on I can't miss this. I know Martha thinks something else about me. I know that there's stuff to do. I mean, we're here serving Jesus, but I am not going to miss this moment. If he's talking, I'm listening. If he's here, I'm present. We will get to the other stuff later. But I'm going to listen. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to be present. Most of us would go, oh, but Ben, I can't do that. Mary had some expectations on her as well. We talk often at Epic Church about what our part is in something and what God's part is. I would love to tell you that God's going to create breathing room for you, but I haven't figured that to be the case in my life. Anybody else? You keep saying yes to stuff. God's not going to go, well, I'm taking away your computer. I mean, he may make Comcast go down for one day, but, okay, let's not blame that on God. But, right? We actually have to do, that is an our part thing. I think God will fill up the breathing room. But if we demand social media 24/7 and emails, and we have to respond right away, and we can't detach ourselves from a phone, and we have to watch every television show. And it's amazing with technology that you can watch it whenever you want to. But imagine how much more breathing room there was when there were 3 channels, something came on at 8 o'clock, and it didn't come on again, ever. You couldn't get it again, right? With me? You're like, well, Ben, we live in such an advanced... Great. And now we can watch it and have it at our disposal anytime, so we have it all the time. True? Just me. But Mary's got the posture of a disciple. We have convinced ourselves that everything is necessary. Every email, every TV show, every text, every phone call, every happy hour, every trip, every invitation, every sporting event, because we cannot miss that, right? And here's the problem. It's nothing wrong with having a few things on your I can't miss that list, but friends, our lists are way too long. And you're stressed, and you're missing out on God, but you're still echoing this refrain, but I can't miss it. Let me ask you this question. Why? Ben, what if my friend does an Instagram post and I don't like it in 37 minutes, and then they call me and then they don't talk to me and it's just weird? Or what if there's a Facebook message? Or what if the weather changes like hour by hour and I got to make sure I'm up with that? And what if there's a happy hour and it turns out that you had to be at that happy hour to get a promotion in the company, and I couldn't make that one happy hour, so I've got to go to all 6 happy hours this week, and not just at one restaurant or bar. I've got to hit them all. I get it. Oh man, this person that has to have lunch with me by this Thursday and it's Wednesday night. Oh, it's crazy. I don't have time, but man, they may leave the church. Okay, I'll have, Who does that benefit? No one. No one. When we act as though everything is necessary, we actually miss out on what is most necessary. There's a book I read, and it got to the original meaning of the word that we now call priority. But none of us have a priority. We have priorities. It was a singular thing. The idea was singular in nature. That there would be a priority. There would be some priority. There would be something that's so significant it stands out above the rest. But we have priorities. But we don't even have, if we were allotted 10 of them, we would complain about that because, no, I need about 100 million priorities because it's all so important, Ben. And we actually miss out on what is necessary. A lawyer once came up to Jesus in a very familiar passage, and he said to him, which is the greatest commandment? And just so you understand the context, there were considered to be over 600 different commandments at this time. And so he's saying to Jesus, which one should be on the I can't miss that list? Because Jesus, 600 is just too many for one list. And Jesus is like, you're right. But Jesus doesn't give him one answer. He gives him 2 in Matthew 22, 37 through 40. Here's what Jesus says when he's asked which of the commands should be on the I can't miss that list. In 37 through 40, here's his answer. And he said to him, Jesus to the lawyer, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. So I hope you're here this morning, at least in part. We're doing this breathing room series. I hope a question for us would be, Ben, if I'm going to create breathing room, what should be on my I can't miss that list? Well, Jesus was asked the question. Here's what he says. Love God with everything you have and love your neighbor. Love each other as you love yourself. Like, Ben, is that it? Well, let's start there. So most of us, though, few of us, I would say, even have actually the time in our lives to do what Jesus said must be on the I can't miss that list. Because we've got to do what our culture says we need to do and what our company says we need to do. And I think this is a novel time to remind us as Epic Church what our vision statement is. It's to be an increasing group of people who orient our entire lives around Jesus. So we're not orienting our entire lives around our culture or around our companies or around our bosses or around our busyness or around our productivity. We've been called to orient our lives around Jesus, and we can't have him and a million other things on that list. We can't. We keep saying to ourselves and to others, where is God in this? Where is God in the triumph? Where is God in the struggle? Where is God in my daily life? What if God has been here the whole time, but because of all of the things on mine and your cannot miss list, we've actually missed him? Anybody besides me? And we have all kinds of reasons why, right? And one of the things that should make us a little nervous about Martha is that she's serving Jesus and she misses Jesus. Which means this, you could be one of our hundreds of volunteers at Epic Church and be missing him. You could be a leader in your small group and be missing Jesus. You could be writing and delivering compelling messages Sunday after Sunday on this stage and miss him completely. And we have great excuses, right? All right, God's like, Ben, why no breathing room? Well, God, you want me to talk to these people about something meaningful this week? Ben, why no breathing room? Well, God, if you had kept our church at 13 people, I would have some breathing room, but you haven't done that. Ben, why no breathing room? Well, because Shauna and I thought it'd be fun to go get a fourth child. Ben, why no breathing room? Because I can't miss the Warriors game. Ben, why no breathing room? Because I like to sleep. Ben, why do you not have any breathing room? And oftentimes we blame not only our work and our culture or the century we live in, oftentimes we blame God as though he's the one who's taken away our space to convene with him. It's because we've assumed demands that God hasn't placed on us and doesn't want for us. And we've allowed other people to become little God in our lives. So it's maybe a bigger question than breathing room. Maybe about like, hey, who's got the ultimate authority over your life? Like, but Ben, that paycheck, I mean, that talks to me. I know. But oftentimes, even in our companies and our organizations, and for me, even in this church, the board's not putting the pressure on me. You guys aren't putting the pressure on me. The staff isn't putting the pressure on me. I'm putting the pressure on me because I think I have to be all things to all people when they want me to be those things to them. Anybody else? But here's the thing. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, you're not giving account to those people, to those companies, or to the 21st century, right? Or to that cable television show. Like, at the end of the day, we're going to give an account to God. Every one of us. And part of that summary is going to be about what was on our I could not miss it list. You know, Aerosmith liked to say, I don't want to miss a thing. But here's the deal. You are going to miss something. You're going to miss some things. But here's where you get a decision to make. Here's where you get to be a chooser. You get to choose what things you miss and what you get in on. But you won't get in on it at all. Martha couldn't be in the kitchen and at the feet of Jesus. We can't do everything productivity-wise and be growing spiritually in our faith. God's not doing the on-the-go thing. He just isn't. I'm not saying we can't pray on the go, but if that's the entire substance of what we have with God, then we don't have a whole lot with him. And I can come up with excuses that you can come up with. I'm tired, I'm busy, I've got only a limited amount of time. You can do that. But no, if you go after all of those things that you've convinced yourself you can't miss, you're going to miss something. And you get a choice to make. What are you going to miss out on? What am I going to miss out on? I've got to make that choice. I can't be fully present to everything. You can't either. We've got to have some breathing room in our lives to just sit and be a disciple. Just to sit, and you're like, Ben, what does that even mean? Well, for those of us who say we are followers of Jesus, we aren't just following him. He's not always running. There are times to run, right? There are times to be productive. Jesus, you can't read the scriptures without realizing that he wants us to bear fruit. That's productivity. But we are still made by him to be human beings first before we're human doings. And you need to get with it and decide, what do you want to miss out on? What do you want to miss out on? Let me ask you this question. What are the things you're missing out on today that you will regret one day? Just think about it. What are the things you're missing out on today that you will regret one day? Like, get to the end of the road for yourself and think, man, will I regret that instead of being on Facebook 2 hours a day, I should have done 4? Will I regret that I didn't look at the top 20 television shows and watch every episode of every series of every season? Will I regret that I didn't attend every inning of every Giants game? By the way, when you decide when you want to take breathing room from those tickets, pastor's got a cell phone. 415, I'm just kidding. It's all about helping you with your breathing room. But I think the things we will regret are the people that were in front of us and we chose our phones over them. I think the things we regret, rather than having 15 minutes of quiet in our chair with God in the morning, we thought the work couldn't wait. I think the things we regret is our children and our spouses and our parents and our significant others that we had precious time with. And we thought it seemed like it would go on forever. And so we kept choosing other things on our I can't miss this list and waited way too late to put those people there. This past Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, began a season of Lent, and I want to encourage you to participate in that. I don't think it's a must, but it's not something I have a ton of experience with myself, but the idea is that for these 40 or so days leading up to Easter time, that you would give up something, usually involving some time or food or whatever, and use that time to really focus in on who Christ is, his sacrifice for us, to kind of beef up your reflection and prayer life and meditation. But you know what Lent is? It's this incredible microcosm of what we're talking about this morning. What is it? It's removing something from your what list? I can't miss that. And willfully choosing to miss it so you can have this thing that you really don't want to miss. And that's a great 40-day start or so. But this is to be a part of our lives. And so what I want you to do is just if you're willing to, you can keep your eyes open or you can close them. I want you to really be thinking through your list. Just in the quietness. We want to just breathe some space into our services during the Breathing Room series. And so that space for us is now. I want you just to be honest with yourself. Like, what is on my list that has the tagline, I can't miss that? What have you convinced yourself of? I want you to visualize that. And you will find yourself, if you're like me, wanting to give all the reasons why that must remain on that list. And I want to encourage you to push through till you realize that not all of that is necessary. What are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you actually need to remove from the I can't miss that list in your life? What are the things that they aren't paying the kind of dividends you promised yourself they would be paying? Some of you just need to quit being people pleasers. You need to quit worrying about how everyone else thinks you're spending your time. At the end of the day, you don't give an account to them. And then I want you to think about the posture of Mary. She had a list, like Martha. She didn't have as many things on the list in that moment as Martha did. But on her list, Jesus said this about her list: Mary has chosen the good portion. She's chosen the one thing that is necessary. I pray that you and I would want that so much that we would almost be ambitious towards removing other things that shouldn't fit the list. What exchange needs to happen so that we can take this posture of being present with Christ? And if you've never made that exchange, it could be that you've been in church your entire life and you're super familiar with church and the way that works, and you could be serving here, you could even be a leader here, be really familiar with the things of Jesus and not so familiar with Jesus. Has your relationship with God been all about what you can do? You don't have to earn it. In fact, you can't earn that, but Jesus has earned that for you, but you must receive it. And friends, we can't receive it on the run. So if you're in the room this morning, you're like, Ben, this is not just a thing that I need to get on board with. I need, for the first time ever, to open my heart and create some breathing room just to have a relationship initially with God through Jesus. Let me encourage you to repent of the way you've been living, which is just to turn from that direction, turn towards God's way. Just acknowledge to him, God, I've been missing out because I've thought that I couldn't miss out on all these other things, and I've missed you completely. And respond in faith and say, I don't want to miss it anymore. I don't want to miss you and what you want to do. God, I pray that in this moment, you would help us all just to know that we have that list. And God, I can honestly say for me, there are so many things that have been on that list for me that aren't as significant as I was led to believe, or that I made up in my own mind that they were that important. So God, I pray that you would give us wisdom. God, the courage to step in this direction, but also the wisdom to know what does it look like to choose the posture of Mary in the 21st century with the responsibilities and obligations we have. And God, that you would give us the wisdom to know what are the things that we need to remove. What are the things that we can live without and still thrive, perhaps even thrive better? God, as we enter this series, I pray that you would do a work in our hearts. We're tempted to say, well, we live in San Francisco, or we live in 2016, or we're managers, or we're entrepreneurs, or we're pastors, or we're executives, or whatever the case may be. We're new moms and dads, whatever the thing is, God, we all have our deal. But breathing room is crucial, and I pray that you would encourage us towards that, and that we would be bold enough to make the changes to our schedules, our daily schedules, our calendars, our rhythms, so that we don't miss you. God, knowing we have to miss something, help us to choose wisely. In Jesus' name, amen.